Hi, it's Jeff. I gotta make sure I get the voice here, get this microphone close to here. I'm in the car and I've been doing one video already. It's early in the morning. Well, it's not too early in the morning now. It's actually it's almost 9 o'clock. But I'm sitting here. I did one video and I'm gonna do another one because I had another idea to do. I'm parked. I'm not driving. Okay, so yeah, I'm not looking at you while I'm driving. Okay, so don't worry about that. I'm gonna kind of look back and forth as I'm thinking about ideas too. I'm not driving. Um, See, no hands. I'm not driving. It's not. I don't have a special autopilot car. Um, the the thing I want to mention here, and I hope this one is not going to be a long video, but the one I want to talk about is it came up. It's come up over the years, but again, I'm going to cite Michelle DeGraff and the seminar, the webinar that you did, yesterday on um for the Linguistic Society of America, the webinar about Haitian Creole, Haitian culture, and the history and all that about that. And you mentioned, just a lot of things about bringing the language, elevating the status of the language, to that of other language, and having, language equity and all that. And I've been saying this for years too. I mean, we've both been saying this. We're just brothers of different colors, right? So, and saying the same thing. And we just say it in different contexts and different. I talk more about the language technology aspects of it, and you talk about more of the cultural and education context of it. And we both say those things too, and we talk about the other ones too. But I usually use the language technology as a means to be able to do things. And your advantage is that you get to use your Haitian, you get to use the fact that you're Haitian at your MIT to be able to do it. And I'll use the CMU stuff. I mean, we're both using different opportunities to leverage things, and it's just complementary. That's all. It's not competitive. It's just complementary to be able to achieve the same goal in the end. But the thing that I want to share here, and basing on what Michelle, talked about he talked about Michelle. You talked about the where the children, the parents will not want to. Well, it's actually a question. Then you answer the question, and it's about the parents not wanting to continue to support, or to actually, they want their children to learn the elite language of the country. And this is a known thing, and this happens all over. It's not just Haiti. I mean, this happens in all countries that are developing, emerging, third world, whatever we want to call these things. I mean, there's every term has its own connotation to it, and I don't want to try to attach too many connotations here, negative connotations or things. But I mean, we know what all this is. So it does tend to be that parents who want the children have the best economic opportunity. I mean, and we do this actually in I wasn't a rich kid when I was young, and so I wanted my kids to have it better off than I had it. I'm a white privilege guy, right? So same thing. I mean, every parents want to do this in general, okay? And I've changed my attitude about that actually with my own children. Um, I tell them, hey, it's the Nikes and Adidas. I don't want you to have the Nikes and Adidas, okay? Yeah, we can afford them, but I want you to have them. You got to work for them if you want it. No, well, I got these. I mean, we do, but I don't want to. That's all they have, And I want them to understand that it's not about brands, and brands is a whole. That's a whole other thing. Whole branding thing is kind of a lie and a myth, anyways, to just promote you and things. And so, hey, but the thing is that the parents want their children to have the best, okay, in general. And what happens is the parents want the children to have to not to, they degrade their own language in order to get the children to learn the elite language of the country. And that happens in education, that happens in government, that happens everywhere. And like you said, the whole thing of UNESCO, has offices there in Haiti, and all the people in the room speak Haitian Creole, but they have to speak in French. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Why are they doing it in Haitian Creole? Because then they'd be supporting what they're saying, or they're practicing what they're preaching, right? That's a whole political thing of, choice of language selection in governments, okay, right? And I work in a big company. I can tell you that the same thing kind of happens too in a big company. Um, what language choice when they have meetings? Same thing, okay? Um, it's really the same kind of thing that happened, and it's interesting. actually it's the person. It's who comes to the meeting if they speak English or not, or whether. Yeah, there's a very similar thing. So it's not just governments. Okay. Um, but I want to bring it back down to some anecdotes and some examples that I've seen over time about this topic, about where the people want to have abandoned their language and being attached to the language. And I want to give a couple things. And I'll just say from my background too, when I was an American coming to France and studying in France, studying linguistics in France, and I had to prove myself. I didn't speak English. I really did not speak English. I'd still write letters and stuff. The first year I did everything to, really acculturate. Um, I did have a friend in that for that my Canadian guy that he was an assistant too. So we'd play cards and stuff, and go to his place, and over the weekends we'd do things. And that was the only person I spoke English to. I'm serious. All the rest I'd speak French all the time because I really wanted to become totally integrated in the French culture. I did the same thing, and I'll tell you, I'm going to be honest here, okay? I'm going to be honest because Sally Coco was on the phone last night too on your talk, and you were. You know what? I was writing for the Pigeon Creole language right back in the 1990s, right? I came home for that. I came back from that year in France. Actually, not that year in France. It was afterwards. I think it was the 4 years, the 3 extra years I lived in France. Okay, so I was writing some articles for the Pigeon, the journal Pigeon Creole language that we all know, right? And Sally Coco was actually on the review board at the time. At one time, Sally, you know what you did? You sent me back at the thing, and it was red marks all over, and you're a non-native speaker, red marks all over, and you're criticizing my stuff as a native speaker, and that was good. That was good. And you're probably wondering why. Because I'm working on French, and I'm not writing in English. I'm writing in French all the time, and so now I got to write back in English. And I just learned a lesson from that one. Learned a lesson from that. Do not abandon your native language, especially when it is the major language of publications. Because what happened is I had that happen actually the first time around. The first year I was in France, came back and went to Desile, and people said, "Man, your writing sucks." Okay. And I was like a straight A student in high school. I was like the number one in spelling stuff. But I went to France, went to culture, came back, and my writing sucks. Then the second time around in France for 3 years, came back and Sally Coco, you say my writing sucks for a journal. We're not going to publish your article unless you clean this thing up, okay? And I learned my lesson. So that's why I only write in French, English now. I only publish in English because I wanted to be top if I want to publish quality out there. But I don't worry about it anymore. I do videos. I can talk in the language. You don't have to worry about the writing anymore, okay? I don't worry about it, though I can do both, okay? I do it in a different language, and I don't keep up the stuff. But if I had to write stuff in French now, I could work on it so much more. But I don't speak in French. I just don't, I don't try to use it for publications anymore because I don't have to worry about, proving myself for what language I'm writing, okay, for the French part and all that, and whatever. I just found spoken videos works way better because you just don't worry about it. So, but so to this topic here, and this is actually in the vein. These anecdotes are in the vein of abandoning a language because I abandoned a language. I did have language attrition of my mother tongue to be able to learn another language. And then when I worked in Haitian Creole stuff, I was doing the Haitian Creole all the time. So for like 2 years, and so I was speaking French at home while I was living in the States. I was speaking English to my colleagues who spoke English. I was speaking Haitian Creole to my colleagues who speak Haitian Creole. So, hey, talk about linguistic gymnastics or, yogurt in the brain, totally just kind of, hey, it was it's like a tri-flavored snow cone, it's all compartmentalized. You kind of do this or different, hey, no, even better, a bowl of ice cream with different, different scoops of ice cream. They're all different types of ice cream. One's green, one's blue, chocolate, vanilla, and pistachio, whatever the green stuff. Hey, you kind of deal with everyone you get to do with. So, but I think I've learned through that lesson in both Sally Coco and Sally and Michelle, you both understand too, because you both lived in other countries too, and you've gone through this kind of thing. And I bet that you would struggle. Hey, Sally, I bet you would struggle if you had to write for your mother tongue and publish it all the time too. Michelle, you're doing it. Michelle, you're actually using your mother tongue to actually promote and to write it. So you're practicing it. Not all folks do that. And that's why you got praised. That's why you got praised yesterday, Michelle, for all of your colleagues in the LSA who were attending that thing. And John Bao, he praised you for doing it in Haitian Creole. You dared to do it, and that's great. Great, I totally agree. Um, um, because I went through the whole thing of abandoning my own mother tongue English to go learn French, to go to French and to other languages. And that was a struggle. So you're keeping up your mother tongue, which is a minority language. I got to just keep it simple. I'm not trying to make any statements here. Just it's not one of those 10 major international languages that get the visibility. Okay. Um, but you're using your mother tongue, and you're talking about it, and you're doing it, and you're writing it, and you're presenting in it. It's cool. And I presented the Haitian Creole. Okay, I did a seminar at the Université Caraïbe. Okay, and I did it in the first 6 minutes. It was Haitian Creole, and boy, I can tell you, those students in the faculty were just like shocked. The white guy coming and talking to them in Haitian Creole, and I had to follow a script. It took me a long time. I wasn't fluent. I was fluent in reading, writing. That was no problem. So I had to write out the script. I had one of my Haitian colleagues actually clean it up. We had to get it. And I was writing everything, kind of making it talk. So I was making it interesting, like I wasn't reading. But you can see I was reading the script because I just couldn't do it I couldn't do it from here. Okay, it's hard because I was inventing words. I was inventing terminology. Um, and I wasn't fluent enough to be able to do of thinking in the language. And I can do it French and English. That I can do no problem. Um, to be honest, I'm not a C2 level language proficiency in Haitian Creole, and farther from that today. But you've got it because it's your mother tongue. So you keep it up, you keep the writing up, and you do it, and you're presenting in Haitian Creole and the Haitian Creole now. So this is even better. Um, and this whole thing comes back to I want to loop this back to the talking about why people refuse to identify with their mother tongue. Okay, and we talked about that. You mentioned that. Got mentioned by the question. You answered that about in the seminar last night. That the parents are wanting, and so that we kind of know this thing, and this happens. There's a lot of this. Actually, I've been saying for like 20 years because I did some of my training with at the seminary doing linguistics at SIL, and the whole thing is should some of those linguists go and work on the languages to translate the Bible into those languages that are minority languages, and that's a whole debate. I'm not talking about the religious part of it or the religious text part of it. I'm not talking about that debate, okay? Because that's another debate whether or not um, you know th- whether or not to take the Bible into another country and all that kind of stuff, and whether or not that's imperialism and stuff. I don't want to get into that, okay? But I want to get into the part. I want to discuss the part of is it viable to take is it viable and interesting to be able to support those languages, whereas the book that you're writing about is going to be read by people, and soon as you don't have the literacy of the Bible, is it worth it to go do it and then teach literacy to people in a language that is not the official language of the country that they're going to have to do their education in later if they get to do it? Okay, this is a big debate. I know what I'm running. I know what I'm walking into here. Um, and I'm taking the devil's advocate of other sides of it because I've thought about this for the years. Why do we want to do it in languages? They are the minor languages, but the people are wanting to get out of their. They want to get out of their. You know, Trump's got his word for that one. The what hole. I don't want to say that because I don't believe that, but that's what's said. But there's some reality to that. And I see the people that 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 abandoned. How many African students I know really that abandoned they left their home country, they went to the States or went to France, and they didn't go back home. I have lots of colleagues and friends that are like that. Okay, they go back to home visit, but they were brain drain to the European cultures. And hey, Michelle, you're brain drained too. I mean, and I'm brain drained. Okay, I'm brain drained. I'm not in America. I'm here, and a lot of us are brain drained. We're not there anymore. but we're not because we're giving back to it. Okay, so you're doing everything you can to establish, you know, well, you're doing all you can to establish for Haiti through MIT stuff. You're doing it. You're trying to keep that up. You're trying to use the leverage. You're using the leveraging. Okay, we all know we're doing this. We're doing this, and but the fact is we're not doing it from the home country. And then people criticize, hey, why not go back and do it? Well, because we wouldn't have the money to be able to make it happen if we don't do it this way, right? So you got more support. I mean, this is reality, okay? But I want to come back to the one anecdote um, of of how I seen this. Maybe one traumatic on the other side of the people that are um, doing it. So like the past 30 years, okay, since the 1990s, this is 30 years now, okay. This has been 30 years I've been doing this in France, 4 years in the States, but pretty much all in France. And back in the 1990s, I was known as the guy that speaks, the guy that reads and writes Creole language is better than the native speakers. I'm not kidding. They were all waiting, why are you reading and writing? Because we only speak it, you know? So I couldn't speak it as well as that, but I could read and write it really well. And they were just like, whoa, dude, where do you come from? What planet are you from? We don't know how to read and write it. And these are your second generation, usually. Martinique and, speakers. They spoke French. They were educated in French, but it kind of depended. It kind of depends. The Haitians actually supported their language more, but not always. And not always. And that's what I want to get to here. So, um, and France, the the Lesser Antilles have a little more support than from the French Republic than does Haiti, because Haiti was independent. And the French Antilles, Martinique and Guadeloupe, they said, "Hey, play that card, that joker, and stay under it, so that they continue to have support financially." Hey, they made it. Those countries made a choice. So, and it's had its advantages and disadvantages. Okay, everything's they're all advantages and disadvantages of the history, and nothing's right, nothing's wrong. Okay, nothing's right. It's just where it is and what choices were made, and now living with the consequences, whatever. But the consequences I've seen that have been revealed some things to me where I've been, the guy, I've been the advocate for Creole language, not just Haitian Creole, because French and, it was St. Lucian Creole that actually put me on the map of doing the research, right? So that's what I was known for in the beginning, St. Lucian Creole, St. Lucian, French lexicon Creole, not the English lexicon part one of it, but the French lexicon one. But then I got Haitian Creole because I went to CMU, Carnegie Mellon, and I worked in Haitian Creole there. I did go to, I did go, I did go to Indiana University. I had an opportunity to go there, but I just decided not to stay. So, and I had a job at Caterpillar I went to take, immediately, and that it was a good decision. That was a great decision because it's allowed me to do what I'm doing today, um, for translation systems and stuff. That was a necessary thing and a great choice. So, and it really fit what I want to do. But I was able to, then Carnegie Mellon hired me because I had that experience. So, and then I get to the Haitian Creole. So the Haitian Creole came in after the fact. Um, so that's where I kind of brought the Haitian one into. But I'm actually known more, for what I'm doing for Haitian Creole, not for the other ones. But that's just because of history and what language was published, right? So it was all published in French, so we can read the French. So it's all, well, it's not in English, so we can't read it. Um, but it comes all back to this thing of what language to use, language choice, and all that. And I recall during that year in 2010, Michelle, where where we released the data for the Haitian Creole, only one third of it. Okay, ethical reasons, I couldn't give it all away. I would give it all day today if I thought the way today what I was doing, but I didn't think about how I was able to do it to anonymize it. But I can actually give away all the data today if I want to. Well, if we want to do that, we can do it. But I think it's too late now to do it. Maybe not. Maybe not. It would be, I have to think about that. We have to think about it. In fact, you and I should talk about it and maybe discuss that because I think discuss how to do that. I think that'd be good because you've got some good points of view that I really respect. But so we released all that data, got it in the news. Microsoft Translator did the thing. Google Translator did their thing, and I got to go talk to the Microsoft research lecture and all that kind of stuff. And I was in the news, Voice of America, and the Herald, New York Times, Herald Tribune, and all these different places and stuff talking about this. But at the same time, and I had a BlackBerry back then. Not get an iPhone. They made me take an iPhone. I hate it. I hate it. But um, I remember being in a there was a church that I was going to, and one of the folks from Africa, okay, I can't remember which, probably Congo, one of the Congolese colleagues or friends, said, "Hey, there's a Haitian over there. You got to go talk to him in Haitian Creole," because I knew it was a spoke Haitian in the Creole language. So I go over and talk to this guy, and I started addressing him in Haitian Creole. Okay, moi, Jeff, ça commence, that kind of stuff. Just trying to be nice, trying to. And you know what? He spoke to me back in French. Je m'appelle machin, okay, something, and he refused to speak to me in Creole. Okay? So I keep trying. I keep trying. And he keeps refusing. And I'm going to say this in French because this is what he said. Okay. This is how he said it and how he said it. And I think you're going to get this. You're going to feel this, Michelle. You're going to feel this. Okay. He says, je ne parle pas avec des gens qui parlent le patois tronqué. Le créole tronqué. Whoa. 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 The white guy that's got an accent that hasn't spoken Haitian Creole for 12 years since working the Haitian Creole project. Yeah, it's hard to find people because I read and write it more. But hey, I'm doing other things. I got other family things to do, and I worked in telecom for 5 years. I had other things to do too. Okay, so in life. But he's sitting there saying, "You don't speak my accent well enough for me to actually in Haitian Creole for me to speak to you." Okay, that's what he's saying to me. Um, that kind of hurt, just because I had been advocating for the language for the past two decades at that. He didn't know who I was. He had no idea who I was. Just no idea. So I pull up my phone, the BlackBerry, look up Google Translate because the one's more better known. Microsoft's not as known at the time. Microsoft. Pull up Google Translate, and I say, "Hey, dude, did you know that?" "Yeah, Google Translate." And they say, "Hey, look, there's Haitian Creole in there." Oh, hey, I'm not saying this all in French, okay? But I'm going to say it in English for all those who are just trying to watch this video in English. And he says, "Oh, wow, how'd the Haitian Creole get in there?" You can see it coming. You can see it coming. You can see I was luring him in with the fish hook, okay? I said to him, so the guy keep up. I don't know if I said it in French or I said it in Creole. I can't remember which I said it in. But I'll say it in English just for everybody to kind of get the joke out of it. I said, "Hey, it's the white guy in front of you that speaks broken Creole that put the Haitian Creole into Google Translate." That's what I said to him. I can't remember which language I said it in. But that's what I said to him. Because he said I spoke broken Creole. Because my accent wasn't great. And I wasn't very fluent. Okay? But I said it back to him. And I was really firm about it. Really firm about it. And you know the word that comes out of that? Respect. Okay? Boom. He just he realized. He realized what he did. He realized what he did. And I think I add another sense. It's like, I've been advocating for your language for 30 years, 20 years. I was doing this before you were born. I said something like that. And I said, but I've been working for most of my life to put that into there, my career, my life. He stopped speaking in French and he started speaking to me in Haitian Creole. Okay. Um, and it's not about me having that opportunity to do that. And I don't think that that's what it's about. But it showed something. It showed something. It revealed something to me about how some Haitians see their own language. They don't see it like I see it. They don't see it that it's something valuable. They see something that they want to abandon and not be, not be affiliated and associated with. I learned something, Michelle, that day in 2010 in the summer. I learned something, a very valuable lesson that what I had been doing for 20 years at that point, now 30 years, is not as important to the people because they want to get out of being affiliated with it rather than being associated with it, because of the status that it has. And my whole goal is to bring up the status, right? To bring up the social status of language, to that equal language status that you were talking about, I've been talking about. We say it in different ways with different objects and different explanations, but we're saying all the same thing. And that taught me a big lesson. Um, and now what I've been doing for the past additional 10 years now, 12 years, is trying to bring it a different way. And that's why I got into Facebook, and that's why I got into things where it's actually more visible, not just Google Translator. And you got to go to the app. It's like everybody's on the app. So put it in Google Translate, Amazon Translate, and Microsoft Translator. You got to go to the app to actually use it, okay? But when you get it into Facebook, people are, or in LinkedIn or Twitter, people are in the app doing the stuff, doing the content, and they got the language choice. Or YouTube, the whole videos. I just tell people, hey, just flip on the translate button because I've already all my two videos like this one. I already tag it as what language is coming I'm speaking in, so that makes it available for translation. So I just tell people, hey, go in, click on the language settings next to the CC button, the closed caption button. There's a language setting button. Go choose translate on translate and choose Haitian Creole. Boom, done. It's going to Haitian Creole or French or whatever, but having put a Haitian Creole there, that's just like make this video right here. It's globalized and into Haitian Creole. Not perfect, right? That's okay. But the message gets across. Not perfect. But if you're in the content, if you're in the content creation, the content consumption application, and the language is available, then there's no more discussion about whether or not it's language, what it is, and all this kind of stuff. And so I've been using these technologies and all these things to actually promote and explain it how to do it and to make it more visible. Um, and there's an anecdote that taught me a lot. It did teach me a lot. And it taught me about what I had been working on for years. And it made me take just a step back and think about, like I was mentioning about, the Bible, to do Bible translation in the languages that their people don't want to read and write the language because they want to learn the language of the country. It kind of was that step back, another thinking about what's the value of the language. And it's not just, I mean, we talk about um, corporate social responsibility, and sometimes it's not actually good to always put it in a negative vein. I mean, I've seen some posted about some posts in LinkedIn and stuff about yeah, I know what it was. There was a picture on probably LinkedIn or Facebook one day of some bay, a picture of the water, the bay, um, in Haiti. I can't remember where it was, but it's a beautiful picture. A beautiful, just sunlight and stuff. You can see the bay and all that. And just wonder. And somebody said we need to stop talking about Haiti being a poor country. And then there was this picture of this beautiful thing. It's giving what the beauty of it is. You can feel the tension. You can feel the tension that we want to make it look like it's just. He was saying we want to make it look like it's great, and he's right. Because it is, and you want to be positive things. But the reality is that it's also one of the poorest countries. It is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, which is true too. And that's where the focus is there. So it's always seen as like a country that's receiving aid, and it's always down to the bottom. It's always the ones being crushed by natural disasters, and then you got to reestablish stuff all the time. So it's always got this negative connotation of Haiti. And what he was saying is we want to get away from this negative connotation of Haiti being the one needing the help all the time. Why don't we get something that is beautiful? And this has maybe, these kinds of things have made me think about how I present, how I talk about it, and how I do it. It's really got to choose at what point in time where you're talking to specific audiences and how you're addressing it. And it's been a struggle for me to think about how to do this, because I'm always talking about Haitian Creole and Haiti being as the receiving end of of NGOs and of support and of receiving that and needing to be into the language technology because it needs to be at the same level as the other languages. I'm always saying it in that kind of vein, in that kind of approach. Whereas the people who are saying, hey, we need to stop presenting as that, we need to present it just as it is. It is just what it is. And that's true too. Um, but it doesn't always have the chance to do that because of its negative perception. Or, I don't say negative perception, but you know what I mean? It's just perceived as that. Um, and I think these are some real cultural debates. These are some real cultural deep dive stuff into the heart and seeing and trying to figure out how we can. There are 8 billion people in the language in the world today that speak 7,000 languages, of which they're all the ones that just don't get the visibility compared to all people from my home country that get the visibility and only speak one language and be proud about it. They don't care. They don't care about the rest of the freaking world. They don't. I mean, they don't. Um, for the majority. I mean, we were going to a gas station one time, and I was back in the States on a trip. I don't remember why. Um, about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, and some guy said, I was at the gas station sitting there just complaining about the gas prices, and I said to him, hey, um, I said this the 3 cent increase in the gas price is nothing. That's just peanuts. I said, over in Europe, we're paying 3 times more than we're paying here. I said, what you're paying for a quart here, no, what we're paying for a gallon here is what we pay for a quart over there of gas. He didn't understand what I was saying, but he didn't think quarts, we're only talking gallons. This guy from central the heartland of America, the pit, this is the armpit of America, okay? And he said, I don't care about this. I don't care. He didn't care. He didn't care because he doesn't see, he isn't getting news that's anything outside of his. The reason all he's watching is the tornado news and the weather channel. That's all he knows. And he'll read the local newspaper. Doesn't read anything international. That's kind of the mentality of the thing. So you've got this kind of that, and that kind of woke me up to some stuff too. Um, that woke me up to how people in the United States, my home country, they think. I already knew it, but that just confirmed it. And there was another time I was in a bookstore in action back at home, and um, back home in the Portland area, at a small little bookstore. It's pretty well known. A small one, it's not Powell's, okay? A really small little thing, dinky one off in the suburbs. I won't say where, um, but it was a small little store. I went to buy used books all the time when I was in college. I'd turn books and I'd sell them, and try to get so I could buy more books. And there were some people there, and they were talking about just the whole. This was 20 years ago. I can't remember 15, 20 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but they were talking about, you know, how prices were and stuff. I said, do you realize how privileged you are, to have this kind of stuff? And I just brought it up, and people were just looking at me. They dared to talk about their privilege. And I spoke out about the privilege they had for some stuff, and how a lot don't have that. They're just like throwing it back at me. Um, so I've been doing this for a while. I've been bold enough to say it to people. Bold enough to. Sorry, the sun not here, but it's making my bright light skin reflect more, right? Like I got a beard that kind of cuts it down. But I've been advocating for a long time, and I dare to do that, and I don't have to do it, but I choose to do it because I really value. Um, uh, because of my history, and those of you that know my background history, I appreciate that. But a lot of people don't know who I am, so I've got to use opportunities to humble them. You know, like that guy, that the Haitian guy, where he just said, you're broken stuff, and I had to use the fact that. And then I said, hey, go watch my talk in Google, Microsoft, and research. I talked about your language and why it's important. Um, and so I can use that for him, and that was not a. But I use this also, that same Microsoft talk, to talk to leaders, C-suite kind of people, all the C-level folks at companies and stuff, to be able to influence them, because I have to influence them at times to value the language that don't get the thing. And I'm working on some stuff, and I can't talk about it. Okay, I can't talk about it. But I'm working on stuff that will value it and bring value more. to the minority languages. Okay. Um, Michelle, call me and I'll tell you what I'm doing. Okay. I'll tell you, but I won't say this in the video. Um, and I like to get your perspective on it, what I'm doing, which is, I'm still doing what I've been doing for a long time. You've been doing it for a long time. Again, we're doing as brothers in different colors. So so yeah, this is. I want to talk about that, and when these perspectives that I've had some backlashes and stuff over the past 3 decades, and it made me think about how I present things and how I say things, but I still have to continue to do what I'm doing because we still need to bring the elevated up and still need to bring the value of it up. But I just had to present value in different ways, and it depends on the audience. It really depends on the audience and who it is. Um, and we, of course, have different audiences. You're there at MIT, and you're doing things with folks that you're presenting that as a research kind of thing, an education thing, in an education community, um, to 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 bring that as kind of a research area. I don't want to say a research area, but you know what I mean. It's a kind of you're dealing with the intellectuals. You're dealing with intellectuals. You can play with it. The whole Boston area is just like it's an intellectual, boom town. It's just right there. Um, you know, like say Marlies, she was at Harvard, come down to MIT to take classes. I mean, it's the whole intellectual community. I would have loved. I almost got to go to Boston College. Okay, I had an offer. I had an offer at Boston University when I went back to the States in 1994. I had an offer to go have the instructorships at Indiana University IU with the Creole Institute, or University of Illinois at Champaign in second language linguistics, or Boston University. I made my choice. I chose Indiana just for certain reasons, right? But Boston was it was on the list. So because of the African language stuff, but I made a choice. And you're talking to that kind of specific group a lot, not completely, because a lot of the stuff you're doing is about promoting, as all your career language stuff in general, and the websites and stuff and all that, doing that. But your audience that you're dealing locally, whereas I'm dealing business, a whole business committee, so it's a whole different ballgame when we're trying to have pitch what we're doing, and I have to deal with it, like how to get this language into these language technologies. There's a whole money thing behind it. It's how much justification, how much it's going to cost an extra, what's going to cost to create the database. It's going to cost this. I have to come into all this financial return on investment, return on outcome kind of discussions. It's all financial. So I can have from a completely business perspective. That's the only way I'm going to be able to pitch it, to be able to get it happen. I can pitch the way you're doing too, from the educational point of view. Corporate social responsibility, I use that angle too. But it only works with some people. And I got watch my other videos. I had some other videos about associating yourself, the risks of associating yourself with nonprofit associations or pro bono stuff. I have another one about risk of associating with the minority language. I have a couple of these up on my YouTube channel. Just look up the word risk, and you'll see some. And I got a couple more. There's a playlist in there too about it, the risks and stuff. And I talk about those because those happen too. I've had those backlashes happen, and I've learned some lessons from that too. So it's not just this. There have been several lessons learned, and just the past, I think, the past couple months, I've learned some of these. Like, I get that reputation too. Oh, shoot, how'd that happen? Darn. So I gotta adjust the approach. And it was because I was associating myself and I wasn't getting other things done. That the whole corporate social responsibility thing was up front, but that seems like, well, that's just an extra, cherry on top of the cake. You got to be doing all this stuff to be able to do it. Well, because but people didn't know I didn't have any developers to work on the stuff I was doing, so they had no idea. So they saw me as this kind of guy was just kind of doing this corporate social response. That was a bad thing. Got some negative vision, and that actually stopped me from getting some positions. I'm not kidding. It actually stopped me from getting the position because the corporate social responsibility stuff was too visible compared to the actual deliverables of doing other stuff. That's what it's like. And I can't come and say, hey, I got 250 publications, because publications just aren't the thing, right? That's just next. Oh, wow, you get that many. But for people like you and me, and when we're academic side, hey, that's really important. But for people in business, like, oh, so what? Um, it's not how many publications you got, how many presentations you've made, and how much money that you brought in, how many KPIs you've met for, and how many projects that have been supported based on the pitches you've done. That's what counts for me. So it's a whole different thing um, for that side of the fence in the house. But so this again, I don't want to turn this into like an hour video, but I kind of want to bring up that whole thing of that why the people abandon the language, or that whole brain drain talk kind of thing that happens, and how do we confront that, how we deal with that. And I don't think that there is a single answer to it. I think it's multifaceted, and it's really complex, and it kind of depends on the audience of where they are at that point in time in their life. And that's why all of my sales kind of experience and stuff helps, because my whole goal is to figure out what the needs are of the person in front of me when I'm doing it, and when, based on what they say, turn I take a different turn and try to present it in different ways. And that's rather than taking my point of view as the one that I want to pitch to them, I'll try to adjust it and adapt it, because once I get to know what they need and what they're thinking about, then I know how to pitch it to them. You know, it's kind of it's yeah, it's what it is. So yeah, Michelle, reach out. Well, talk about it whenever you've got time. I know you're busy. Me too, but I've tried to be less busy. I'm working on trying to make myself less busy all the time. That's why I do these videos in McDonald's and stuff in the car, because it kind of works. And it gets but it shares thoughts. It shares thought leadership, and doing things that are, true thought leadership, not selling a product. I haven't been selling anything. I talked about a couple of translation programs, but no one's making any money off that. Well, Microsoft isn't, really making money off it. It's giving back to the community, um, but yeah. So just again, some thoughts about that's some thoughts again. Again, there's no answer to any of this, but it's experience and just trying to go through it and see how to do it better in the next time for other people, and talking about it when you're coming from a different point of view and stuff. So thanks for listening. For all of you that are listening to this, again, to another one of these thought leadership videos, or tips, or word share tips videos, or lectures. I don't remember. I don't know which one. Where I put it and what playlist, it depends on how long the video is, and I don't know how long the video is, and I don't know until I finish the thing. So I'm going to finish up and then decide what playlist they put into. So thanks for listening, everybody, and I hope that what I've said has brought some value somewhere to something that's going to help you do what you're doing wherever you're at and wherever you're doing. Uh, and it may not be the specific language I'm talking about; it could be of other languages, but it's just another perspective of how it's been done in the past and still being lived out today.